to one of the most sacred places in all of Vrindavan, Govardhan Hill. And a few things in advance. There are almost 400 slides in this 4-part series, and a lot of credit for at least, well, for many of, let's say 50% of the slides are directly from Bhakti Chaitanya Swami. He made a 3-part, 1 hour each presentation for the GBC Strategic Planning Team on Govardhan Parikrama. He and I have visited Govardhan together many times in different places in Vrindavan many times. So he very kindly shared his images. Half of what you'll see are directly from him. And somewhere towards the beginning, there's a beautiful song or ashtakam composed by Rupa Goswami, which will be sung with musical accompaniment, and we will make it available, or your facilitators in your local areas will make it available after the final class. So stay tuned for that nectar, and don't ask me for a copy of it because you'll get it at the very end. And I'll also make one other little short recommendation, announcement. I'll try to stay within the time allotted, but I believe that some of the sessions will go a little bit longer, and I won't bother asking you should I continue till completion. I'll just invite those of you that have some other services that your schedule requires that you attend to, please feel free to attend to them. And those who can continue will continue to the conclusion of each of the 4 sessions. Having said that, now we will begin offering our respects to Srila Prabhupada, who introduced many of us to the bhakti process, and the pinnacle of the bhakti process is the holy Dham, Sri Vrindavan Dham, the appearance place of Lord Krishna and the pastime place of Lord Krishna, and we'll offer our obeisances unto him with the deepest gratitude for bringing us to the lotus feet of Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Many of you have been to Vrindavan. Many of you have not, and will one day go to Vrindavan. For sure, when you go to Vrindavan, spend time at Govardhan, because it's a very, very special place amongst all the special places of Vrindavan Dham. There's a celebrated section of Garga Samhita, which you see indicated here. This is the section where the appearance of Govardhan is described, beginning with a discussion between Narada Muni and King Bahulashva. Those of you that are familiar with Krishna book or 10th canto, Krishna personally went to visit King Bahulashva. He was a king of Mithila during that time, a descendant of Janak, and a great personality. Narada was visiting him, and King Bahalashva was asking many questions about Krishna's pastime. So what we're hearing is Narada's narration to King Bahalashva. The description begins with Radha and Krishna in Krishna Loka or Goloka Vrindavan, enjoying pastimes together along with many of Radha's expansions, her gopis. And after enjoying rasa dance together for some time, Radha made an appeal, a request to Krishna to please manifest a very special place for their ongoing pastimes together. Krishna closed his eyes, and in deep contemplation from his heart appeared his astounding love for Vrindavan Dham, headed by his love for Srimati Radharani, and that love from Krishna's heart deposited on the ground and grew and grew and expanded to inconceivable dimensions, according to Garga Samhita, 1 billion yojanas, which is 8 times, in terms of miles, 8 billion miles tall, and 500 million long, and 100 yojanas wide. And the size that Govardhan was taking was so huge, Krishna slapped him. Said, stop. You're consuming the whole territory in Vrindavan. So he subsided in his growth. According to Garga Samhita, that's the manifestation, a lila, of course, because Govardhan is as eternal as everything in the spiritual world is eternal. And when it became time for Krishna's appearance on earth, of course, there's timelessness in the spiritual world, but Krishna's fully conscious of everything. So during each day of Brahma, he appears in the earthly realm, and he was smiling. And Radha asked him, what's the cause of your joy? And he said, very soon we will appear on earth together and enjoy our pastimes on earth, just as we do here in Krishna Loka. And Radha appeared distressed. And Krishna asked why. She said, how can we leave Vrindavan without Govardhan Hill and the river Jamuna and the forests of Vrindavan? And then Krishna said, do not worry, those arrangements have already been made. And then the topic shifts to what Narada had said to King Bahalashva, and it shifted to what Narada had then said to one of the brothers of Nanda Maharaj, who then Sadananda related to Nanda Maharaj, how Govardhan descended from the spiritual realm to the earthly realm. By Krishna's direction, Govardhan made his appearance on earth in a place called Shamali Dvipa. Shamali Dvipa is described in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's one of the 7 rings that are parts of the Bhumandala domain in the universal form, or the cosmic manifestation as Brahma knows it. And there's a Shamali tree in the midst of the Shamali Dweep, and that's the home of Garuda. And in the center of this Shamali Dweep is a mountain range known as Dronachala. According to Garga Samhita, Dronachala is one of the most celebrated mountain ranges in the whole universe. And Govardhan appeared as the son of the chief of the Dronachala mountain range. Only when Govardhan appeared, the size was much reduced, but still very, very big. The leaders of all the other mountains in Bharatvarsha, namely the Himalayas and so many other mountain ranges, came to offer their respects to Govardhan and gave him the name Giri Raja, the king of all mountains, because of the wonderful qualities that Giri Raja possessed. They offered their respects to him. So one day, Pulashtya Muni is pictured here, one of the direct sons of Lord Brahma, was traveling from his quarters or his place of residence in Kashi. And when he reached Dronachala, and he saw this magnificent mountain, he requested the father of Govardhan to give permission for his son to come with him to Kashi, because he said Kashi is such a wonderful place. It's the home of Lord Shiva in his form of Vishwanath. But there, it's a very sacred place, but there's no mountains where I can perform my austerities, and so kindly give your permission for your son to come with me back to Kashi. It sounded very much like Vishwamitra Muni requesting Dasarath to send Ram with him. Dronachala didn't want to do that, but he was very afraid of Pulastya's anger. And so he instructed his son to accompany Pulastya. And Govardhan agreed on one condition, that once you place me down, then I will not go any place further. If you give that commitment, that promise, then I will go with you. So naturally, Pulastya agreed, very reasonable request. And there's different images. This one shows an image of Pulastya flying through the air like Hanuman. The next image you'll see, he's walking. Whether he was walking or flying, he had mystic powers, and he was able to lift the whole mountain. And the mountain's dimension, 8 yojanas long, 8 times 8, 1 yojana is 8 miles, so 16 miles long, 5 yojanas wide, that's 40 miles wide, 64 tall, 64 long, 64 miles long, 40 miles wide, and 2 yojanas tall. That's 16 miles tall. Any mountain you know is 16 miles tall? No, no such thing. But during this yuga, when Krishna was appearing, mountains were of such dimensions, and Govardhan shrank. You'll see why in just a moment. So Pulastya, using his mystic power, carried Govardhan, and as Govardhan was passing towards Kashi, passing over Vrindavan Dham, he felt this very strong urge to remain there in Vrindavan Dham and experience Krishna's pastimes and participate with him in Krishna's pastimes. So as fate would have it, by divine arrangement, Pulasya Muni had to answer the call of nature. Forgetting his promise to Govardhan, he set Govardhan down. He went and took his bath in the river Jamuna and came back and was ready to go, but Govardhan reminded him of the promise that he had made, and he wasn't budging. He became so heavy, even with Pulasya's mystic powers, he couldn't lift Govardhan. So then he became very angry. When sages with mystic powers become angry, it becomes dangerous. Only in this case, he cursed Govardhan, because you have displeased me, I curse you, that you will shrink the size of a sesame seed every day. And as Sadananda is narrating all of this to Nanda Maharaj, he declares, sure enough, the curse of Pulasya is what happened. Govardhan has been sinking into the earth, and as we travel around Govardhan, we'll see places where Govardhan Hill is hardly visible, some other places where it's quite tall, but not 16 miles tall. It's shrinking. The local Brijbasis say it's not possible to curse Govardhan. Rather, Govardhan is decreasing in size because of feelings of separation. Now, one might raise a question. Here's another painting of Pulasya carrying Govardhan. Although he's using his right hand, Krishna used his left hand and little finger of his left hand. But that means Pulasya had mystic powers like Krishna. So there's a big difference. Besides, Krishna was only 7 years old. Krishna didn't have to undergo any austerities or mystic performances to have this power. It's because Krishna is Yogeshwara. He is the source of Pulasya Muni's mystic power, or for that matter, Hanuman's mystic power. Anyone who can lift heavy objects, that power comes from Yogeshwara, Krishna. Now, we don't normally hear the other references, but there are other references I'll mention. One of them is from Padma Purana, chapter 18, where Narada is narrating the glories of Vrindavan to Vrindadevi. And the narration is quite different than what we're used to hearing. Narada tells Vrindadevi about one Brahmana whose name was Govardhan, and it took place in a previous kalpa, kalpe paratane, in a previous kalpa, previous day of Brahma. This Brahmana named Govardhan underwent long austerities to please Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu came before him, offered him whatever benediction he wanted, and he requested the benediction that Lord Vishnu would place his feet on his head and stay there. So Vishnu granted this Brahmana's benediction, request for a benediction, and he granted him Sarupya Mukti, according to Padma Purana, and in his next life, he became Giriraj. And because the Supreme Lord was very pleased with his devotion, knowing that he would be hungry, he offered Abhishek to quench his thirst and Anukut to quench his hunger, satisfy his hunger. Now, the part that's missing in this narration is we have the picture of a jiva becoming Govardhan, but not the picture of Govardhan being Krishna himself. Padma Purana doesn't have that dimension, and so we normally don't hear this Padma Purana description although it's there. And there's another, also not so well-known narration about how Govardhan came to Vrindavan Dham. And this narration comes from Narayana Bhatta Goswami. Narayana Bhatta Goswami was a contemporary of the six Goswamis. He was younger than both of Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, and he was born. It has importance in Braj. He was born in a Madhva Brahmana family on the bank of Godavari in the year 1531. So this is after Lord Chaitanya's departure, but during the lifetime of Rupa and Sanatan, and means also the other Goswamis, six Goswamis. In ISKCON, we don't hear so much about him, but in Braj, one hears about him. When he was just 14 years old, he had a vision or a dream or a calling from Krishna directly to go to Vrindavan and assist Rupa and Sanatan in identifying the places of Krishna's pastimes. As we know, this is a service that was given directly to Rupa Goswami, and the indication to Narayana Bhatta was for him to assist. So at 14, he left home and went straight to Radhakund, where he stayed for a good number of years. He received initiation from one of Sanatan Goswami's disciples named Krishnadas Brahmachari. And for 15 to 20 years, his sole focus was assisting Rupa and Sanatan, carrying forward that instruction from Lord Chaitanya to identify places of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. Because as we know, when Lord Chaitanya went, the places had been lost. He found or identified where Radhakund, Shyamakund were, but many of the other places were left to the Goswamis to identify. And many of those places were identified. And Narayana Bhatta Goswami continued identifying deities and many other places. He wrote a book that was the consummation, as you see, Braja Bhakti Vilas. Over 1,000 places and deities were identified and accepted in a very authoritative way. The explanation goes like this. Doesn't say how he would divine where a deity was, but he would engage some workers digging into the earth and saying such and such a deity is here, and digging within the earth, they found such and such deity again and again and again. One of the most celebrated of them is the deity that's now situated in Varsana, the deity of Radha Krishna, known as Sri Ladali Ji. Sri Ladali Ji was found by Narayan Bhatta Goswami. So certainly the Brijbasis in Varsana have a great degree of respect and admiration for Narayan Bhatta Goswami. But the Bala Dauji deity in Unchagaon, those of us that have been to Unchagaon, we visited that deity. It was also found by Narayana Bhatta Goswami. And other deities, Shesha Vishnu, Sanketa Devi. Sanketa is a nice place in Vrindavan. And the deity that's there was found by Narayana Bhatta Goswami, identifying where many such places where he wrote a comprehensive book. It's the most comprehensive and well-respected book describing places of Krishna's pastimes in Braj. So in this book, he describes a pastime where in the previous yuga, when Ram was engaging the Vanaras in constructing the bridge, Hanuman found this wonderful mountain and was preparing to bring the mountain to help form the bridge. But a voice from the sky indicated to Hanuman the bridge is now completed. So Hanuman was a little disappointed. He put Govardhan down in Vrindavan. And Govardhan was discouraged. I was looking forward to being in service to Lord Ram. So Hanuman gave him the benediction. In the next yuga, you will have the Supreme Lord's service unlimitedly. He will walk upon you daily. So this is found in Vraja Bhakti Vilas as an explanation. And we'll see a place as we're traveling, going around Govardhan Hill, where it said, this is commemorating Hanuman bringing Govardhan in honor of Narayana Bhatta Goswami's realization or teaching on this subject. It is said that the gopis identified Govardhan as Haridas, that is, servant of Hari. We know him both as Krishna himself. The Govardhan Puja pastime is the hill of Govardhan is Krishna himself. But there's a very special position of Govardhan as the servant of Krishna. There's three places. One is in the Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 47. There's a phrase where it is said, Uddhava is praised for bringing relief to the inhabitants of Vrindavan because they were suffering from Krishna's separation, and by his coming he reminded them of their dear most Krishna. He reminded them by his words and even by his appearance, because he looked like Krishna. There's the Sanskrit. Krishnam sam smarayan re me hari dasho prajakasam. So he is Haridas of the residents of Vrindavan. That's how they saw him. Servant of Krishna, Haridas. There's another place, also in the Bhagavatam, where Haridasya, Rajarshe, Rajasuya Mahodayam, where Maharaj Yudhisthira is also glorified as Haridasa. All saintly guests at Maharaj Yudhisthira's Rajasuya Yagya glorified the king's love for Krishna, which was so deep that the Lord felt bound to live as a servant, friend, and master in the Pandavas' home. So directly in the Bhagavatam, these two, Uddhava and Yudhisthira, are given this title, but the gopis went beyond that. They indicated that he's Haridas Varya, or the best of Sri Hari's servants. That's pretty special. Uddhava is most exalted associate of Krishna outside of Vrindavan, and Yudhisthira exalted amongst the Pandavas, and Govardhan is more exalted than both of them, according to the gopis and according to the Bhagavatam. Here's what the gopis say about Krishna's being the best of the servants. They pray in this way: "Oh, my friends, this hill supplies Krishna and Balaram, along with their calves, cows, and cowherd friends, with all kinds of necessities." Govardhan is always in this serving mood. Water for drinking, very soft grass, caves, fruits, flowers, and vegetables. In this way, the hill offers respects to the Lord. There's a nice painting of sitting place and caves, for Radha and Krishna's pastimes. And now comes a very special treat, a set of prayers amongst many prayers to Govardhan. This one composed by Rupa Goswami. And the meter, very special meter. Listen carefully as you hear the song being sung or the ashtakam being sung. It's in a meter called Mata Mayura. Mayura is a name for peacock. And Mata means intoxicated. So imagine an intoxicated peacock swaggering and dancing, and the meter is Mata Mayura. In fact, the phrase Mata Mayura appears in the first verse of the Ashtakam. And it's recorded, so listen carefully. I hope you enjoy it.
गोविन्दास्योत्तं सितवंशि वणितोद्यल् लास्योत्कण्ठा मत्तमयूर व्रजवीता राधाकुण्डो तुङ्गतरङ्गाङ्कुरिताङ्ग प्रत्याशाम्ये त्वं कुरु गोवर्धनपूर्णाम्।
O Govardhan, surrounded by hosts of peacocks intoxicated by the desire to dance that is arising due to the enchanting melodies of the Vamsi flute, which decorates the beautiful face of Govinda. O Govardhan, whose limbs display horripilations of joy in the form of sprouts that grow due to the high rising waves of Radhakund. O Govardhan, please arrange the fulfillment of my desires.
यस्योत्कर्षाद् विस्मितदीभिर्व्रजदेवी वृन्दैर्वर्यं वर्णितमास्ते हरिदास्यं चित्रैर्युञ्जं स्तद्युतिपुञ्जे अखिलाशां प्रत्याशां मे त्वं कुरु गोवर्धनपूर्णाम्।
You are the one whose excellence caused the astonished groups of gopis to describe you as Haridasa Varya, the greatest among servants of Hari. As you illuminate all directions by your various clusters of amazing light, emanating from the transcendental moonstones, sapphires, rubies, etc. on your surface. O Govardhan, please arrange the fulfillment of my desires.
See Govardhan in the upper right.
विन्दद्भिर्यो मन्दिरतां कन्दरवृन्दै कन्दैश्चेन्दोर्बन्धुभिरानन्दयतीशं वैदुर्याभे निर्जरतो ये अपि सोऽयं प्रत्याशां मे त्वं कुरु गोवर्धनपूर्णाम्।
You are the one who delights the Supreme Lord through various caves that resemble jewel-bedecked temple sanctums. As well as through your kanda, elephant foot yam, your water lilies, and also through the sparkling, clean, dark-hued waters of your waterfalls. Oh, Govardhan, please arrange the fulfillment of my desires.
शश्वद्विश्वालङ्करणालङ्कृतिमेध्यै प्रेम्णा धौतेर्धातुभिरुद्दीपितसानो नित्याक्रन्दत्कन्दरवेणु ध्वनिहर्षात् प्रत्याशां मे त्वं कुरु गोवर्धनपूर्णाम्.
Oh, Govardhan, whose plateaus are glowing due to your various minerals, like natural red arsenic, oxides of various colors, etc., thoroughly washed by a pure love, which constantly act as pure ornaments for Hari, the ornament of the entire universe. Oh, Govardhan, whose caves always appear to sing out loudly due to the joyous sounds made by hollow bamboos. Oh, Govardhan, please arrange the fulfillment of my desires.
प्राज्याराजिर्यस्य विराजत्युपलानां कृष्णेनासौ सन्ततमध्यासितमध्या सोऽयं बन्धुर्बन्धुरधर्म सुरबीणां प्रत्याशां मे त्वं कुरु गोवर्धनपूर्णाम्.
You are the one whose great multitudes of flat stones appear splendid when they're constantly used by Krishna as places for sitting.
He's on the upper right, sitting.
You are the friend of all the cows, and thus your nature is very sweet. Oh, Govardhan, please arrange the fulfillment of my desires.
निर्द्वन्द्वान संहृतिहेतुं घनवृन्दं जित्वा जम्बारातिमसम्भावितबादं स्वानां वैरं यः किल निर्यापितवान् सः प्रत्याशां मे त्वं कुरु गोवर्धनपूर्णाम्.
Oh, Govardhan, you are the one who certainly overpowered the destruction-causing hosts of clouds. Thus, having conquered the unconquerable Indra, you are the one who calmed down the burning enmity of your mountain relatives. Oh, Govardhan, please arrange the fulfillment of my desires.
बिभ्राणो या श्रीभुजदण्ड परिभर्तुश्छत्रीभावं नामयतार्थं स्वमकार्षीत् कृष्णोपज्ञं यस्यमकस्तिष्ठति सोऽयं प्रत्याशां मे त्वं कुरु गोवर्धन पूर्णाम्.
You are the one who gave true meaning to your own name as you accepted the role of an umbrella hanging over the beautiful arm of your Lord Giridhari. You are the one whose worship is established directly by Krishna's revelation. O Govardhan, please arrange the fulfillment of my desires.
गान्धर्वाय केलिकलाबान्धवकुञ्जे क्षुण्णैस्तस्य कङ्कणहारै प्रयताङ्गा रासक्रीडामण्डितयोपत्यकयाढ्या प्रत्याशां मे त्वं कुरु गोवर्धन पूर्णाम्.
Oh, dear friend of Gandharva Radha, assisting her in the kunjas, forest bowers in her love sports. Oh, Govardhan, whose limbs are decorated with her fallen ornaments like bracelets and garlands. Oh, Govardhan, equipped with surrounding flat areas decorated with the signs of Rasalila. Oh, Govardhan, please arrange the fulfillment of my desires.
अदृश्येनि शेखरपद्याष्टकमेतत् कृष्णाम्बोध प्रेष्ठपटेद्यस्तव देहि प्रेमानन्दं तुण्डिलयन् क्षिप्रममन्दं तं हर्षेण स्वीकुरुतां ते हृदयेश.
O crest jewel among all mountains, O mountain dear to the dark cloud-hued Krishna, may the Lord of your heart, Krishna, happily accept the living entity who studies these 8 prayers dedicated to you, while quickly nourishing his boundless joy of prema. O Govardhan, please arrange the fulfillment of my desires.
Very beautiful. The meter, the melody, the message, the mood. As you can see, our acharyas, headed by Rupa Goswami, have immense love for Govardhan as they have for Krishna. And their appeal to Govardhan is to fulfill their spiritual desires. In that verse number 8, he reveals specifically the desire that he's aspiring for, and that is the love of Radha. So now, in one of the verses, text 7, there's a little surprise where he says that Govardhan gives true meaning to his own name by accepting the role of an umbrella hanging over the beautiful arm of his Lord Giridhari. So he's giving true meaning to his own name. Now, Govardhan doesn't mean you're an umbrella. Govardhan was an umbrella to shield the residents of Vrindavan. So how is it that he accepted the meaning of his name, Govardhan? And a wonderful poet named Harishuri gives the following two explanations you see in bright letters on the bottom line. Ridha Shrava. So here's the translation. This is compliments of Hari Parshad. Krishna wanted to say, "Oh, Indra, you are brave, extremely intelligent, and also the disciple of Brihaspati. Therefore, O Lord of all gods, do not act in a way that is extremely abominable for all learned souls." Ridha Shrava is, one of the meanings is an elder learned person. Ridha Shrava. However, since Indra is known as Ridha Shrava, that's a renowned amongst elder knowers of the Vedas, but it can also mean Vridha, meaning hard, and Shrava is the process of hearing. So he's hard of hearing. Therefore, in order to make Indra hear his message clearly, Krishna raised Vardhana, his voice, because one of the meanings of go is voice. He raised his voice by lifting the mountain. Go, Vardhan. He raised his voice. He sent his message to one who is hard of hearing. And there's a second verse that he expresses something similar. You see in yellow letters there, Sangato Jada. Jada means foolish. Sangha means association with. And Jada normally means fools, but it can also refer to clouds filled with water. So if there is an elder brother, Indra is elder brother. He's the elder brother of Vamana, right? Indra is the elder brother of Vamana, right? They had the same mother, father. The elder brother, born first, was Indra, and born later was Vamana. And Krishna and Vamana are non-different. So if there is an elder brother who has lost the ability to discriminate between good and bad acts, and thinks himself to be correct at all times, and if such an elder brother has repeatedly associated with jadas, or fools, or clouds filled with water, then the intelligent younger brother should always try to bring him to the correct path by displaying extremely pleasing go Vardhana, expert speech, in front of such an elder brother. So Krishna displayed, Govardhan displayed the meaning of his name by lifting the umbrella to stop the downpour of rain from Indra. He established the meaning of his name by that act. So very nice. Poetic, and those that aren't poetic won't appreciate it as much as those that have a flair for poetry. It's very beautiful, what Rupa Goswami has written. So we'll not hear this again until the final session, but when you get it, you'll probably want to hear it again and again. And I'll share with you that many mornings, I wake up in the morning and the melody is playing in my mind. The melody is very charming and enchanting, and it will stay with you, and hopefully the message will also stay with you. Rupa Goswami is praising Govardhan in so many ways, seeing him as the dearmost of Krishna's devotees, and wishing that the dearmost of Krishna's devotees fulfill all his spiritual desires. So the servant of Hari serves by providing things that Hari requires even without Hari asking. He provides soft roots for eating, jewels for ornamenting the body. These are the words of the gopis. Flat places for sitting, so Radha and Krishna can enjoy pastimes together. Here Krishna is playing upon his flute. There's cows in the background grazing on the side of Govardhan Hill, but providing this nice service for Radha and Krishna and all the residents of Vrindavan. Another very nice painting, soft sitting places. Up on top, you can't see because maybe you can see, there's a temple on the very top of Govardhan Hill. On our screen we can't see, but in my computer I can see. There's a hill at the top. In this way, the hill offers respects to the Lord. Thus, Krishna in the form of Govardhan Hill shows how to render pure devotional service. Now, there are many other places, I'll just mention a few, where Govardhan's ways of serving Krishna are described. Gopal Champu has a really long, very elaborate, very beautiful description of Govardhan's services to Krishna. Another source, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, long section, very detailed, Vrajariti Chintamani. He has also written his Govardhan Ashtaka, very similar to Rupa Goswami's, similar and dissimilar. There's some parts that are similar. The main message here, Govardhan is the best of Krishna's devotees, along with being Krishna himself. It's quite amazing. There's a lot of mystery and charm surrounding Govardhan Hill, and as you become more familiar with Govardhan, you'll become very attached, like our Gaudiya Acharyas are. Being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram, Govardhan Hill appears very jubilant. So we heard some etymology or word meanings of Govardhan. Here's two more standard ones, primary ones. Go commonly is translated as cows, and Vardhana is nourishment. So Govardhana gives nourishment to the cows. Another meaning of go is senses, and Vardhana also means to increase. Thus, the name Govardhan is that which increases the senses in the devotee's attraction to Krishna. So now, with that background, we're ready to begin our Govardhan Parikrama. Here's a map of Brajamandala, and if you see just a little bit left of center, a little bit below of center, there's that vertical drawing. That's Govardhan Hill. And you probably can't see the text so well, but at the top, that's Radhakund and Shamakund. At the bottom is Punchari. Puncha means tail. And on the left and the right is Aniyor and Jatipur. We're going to visit these places. Right in the middle is Govardhan village or Govardhan town. We'll visit each of these places as we do Govardhan Parikrama. And as you look to the right, due east, that's where you see Mathura, and Vrindavan is north, a little bit northeast, Vrindavan town, along the banks of the river Jamuna. So it gives you some perspective on the Brajamandala. When the devotees go for 30 days, during the entire month of Kartik, they cover the entire Brajamandala. And when we visit, we often go to some of the special places as time permits. Here's a Google map picture of Govardhan. It's actually, Govardhan is due north and south. This is tilted just to fit on the screen. And the white section in the middle, you'll see in very small letters that says Govardhan. That's Govardhan town. And it is many times said that Govardhan is shaped like a peacock standing on a branch of a tree. That middle portion, the torso of the peacock, that's Govardhan town. A long, narrow neck going up to the top, and the two eyes, Radhakund, Shamakund. And then the long, drooping tail goes down to our lower left, and that's the tail of the peacock. So we're going to start just above Govardhan Hill in Chaitanya Charitamrita. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made Govardhan Parikrama, he started at Manasi Ganga, which is right in the center in Govardhan town. But we're going to begin up on the northeast side. So we're going to go along what from our screen is going to be the lower portion, which is actually the eastern boundary of Govardhan Hill, and then go to the tail, and then go up the western side, and then come back around. That's our Govardhan Parikrama. The reason I'm doing like this is because commonly Govardhan Parikrama begins really, really early in the morning because it takes many, many hours to go around the whole of Govardhan Hill. So often we start at Kusum Sarovar, and because buses can park there, it's very safe. There's not full light out yet, but it's a very pleasant place to begin. So that's where we're going to begin. Here's a map. As you see across the bottom, there's a name, Sarup Das Baba. He's a pujari at the Jagannath temple at Radhakund. And he previously was an engineer or something like that. And he lost interest, and he went instead to Vrindavan, went to Radhakund, established a Jagannath temple, and has made elaborate maps and other descriptions. So this is directly from him. You can purchase his book at all kinds of places in Vrindavan. This is just a photograph of one of his maps. We're going to go to Kusum Sarovar, which you see on the far east side or right side, and we'll walk along that road that's on the upper portion, that blue strip. That's the road, and all those other places that are shown on the map on the left side we'll also visit when we come back around on the final day. So let us begin by the proper procedure for beginning Parikrama around Govardhan Hill is offering prostrated obeisances to the hill and to the Dham and to the devotees who have walked this territory again and again, including Krishna himself. The first place we're going to visit is very beautiful architecture place, perhaps the most astounding architectural wonder of the whole of Govardhan area. And that's this Kusum Sarovar. So the Sarovar refers to the lake, and Kusum refers to flowers. And we'll hear shortly the meaning of that Kusum Sarovar. Before it was the Sarovar, it was just a lake. And in the year 1675, this is by our Western calendar, the water in the lake was made in a formal bathing place by one king, a nearby king, at his expense. He very much appreciated the place. And much later, nearly 100 years later, this structure was built. The structure was built by the king of Bharatpur, nearby kingdom, in honor of a young man's father who checked the Muslim invaders by military strength and protected the Vrindavan and Brijbasis. So it's you can say it's a war memorial in honor of his victory. And we'll see some paintings inside. And he had a number of queens, and the chief queen, Kishori Rani, is also honored by one of these structures up on the architectural section. Here it is a little bit closer, very photographic. Look even at the reflection, it's so beautiful. Of course, there's rainy season where the water goes up and the summer season where the water goes down, so we'll see different depictions at different times of the year. Many places describe Kusum Sarovar. Kusum means flowers. And when Radha and Krishna would meet one another at this place, they both exhibited what's known as Kila Kinchita Bhav. When they would meet one another and see one another, they would experience ecstasies, and their bodies would manifest these different symptoms of ecstasy. You'll find this term in Chaitanya Charitamrita in a number of places, Kila Kinchita. So in one narration, the gopis would come at 11 o'clock regularly, pick flowers, and go to Suryakund to worship Suryadev. This Suryadev was the Ishtadev of Radharani. And regularly, Madhumangal and Krishna would go there, disguised as Brahmana priests, and they would have very funny exchanges with the gopis and receive the flowers and ladus to offer to Surya. Here's some prayers by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, taken from Vrajariti Chintamani. With its nearby forest, groves, and limitless nectar trickling flowers in its waters, Kusum Sarovar shines with great splendor. Is it the handsome face of Govardhan Hill, the king of mountains? This lake is known as Kusum Sarovar because of many blossoming flowers destined to become gopis in the future that grow in its water. That's Vrajariti Chintamani, very celebrated writing of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. There's another very funny one, a pastime where, very similar to other pastimes that take place here, where the gopis come to pick flowers. They're by the side, in the flowers in the Sarovar, and there's a nearby grove of trees, flowering trees, and there was one of their favorite places for gathering flowers. So they would gather flowers, and a similar pastime we're going to hear much more detail of shortly. And Krishna would come and check the gopis. You are stealing flowers. And he would criticize them and chastise them very strongly, harsh words. And I want to know who you are. And the description of this Krishna Bhavanamrita says, just to see Krishna's form and to hear his words, although they were funny and challenging, they were stunned. And when they gathered their wits, they would then say, we are nobody. And Krishna would then say, he would be stunned by their reply. And Krishna would say, not only you're stealing flowers, but you don't exist. So please tell me who you are. And, this funny talk back and forth, Krishna was enjoying, they were enjoying, in their back and forth conversation. It's a very nice, very detailed description. This is Kusum Sarovar at sunset, because we're looking to the west. These shrines were in honor of the father, Maharaj of Bharatpur. His name was Saraj Mal, and Kishori, his good wife. Here's the front structure. Here's the interior structure. Now, pastimes of Krishna are within those arch areas, and the pastimes of the king are within the central area, because it was a memorial, but they were Vaishnavas, they were honoring Krishna's pastimes, as you see, different swing pastimes and different pastimes. And of course, here's the king riding off to war. On the upper right above him, that's Krishna's lifting of Govardhan hill. On the upper left, that's Krishna and Radha on the swing, the Julan Yatra festival. And one of those images is connected with the pastime that took place here at Kusum Sarovar specifically. This doesn't say who this is. There's not an indication. Maybe Krishna's feet, maybe Radharani's feet. There's no marks on the feet, but it's part of the structure here. Very, 250-year-old structure. And little shrines to either side of this same architectural look. Very beautiful, very, very stunning. Now, one of the pastimes that takes place at Kusum Sarovar is connected with what's known as the Sanji festival. There's a photograph of Varsana. And it's done even today in Varsana, but a very old tradition from way, way back is on a certain day, the young girls in different villages, in Varsana is still done, there's a day where girls would gather flowers and decorate the doorways around their houses with flower decorations. And in the evening, the elders would come by and make judgments of who did the best, and whoever did the best would get some award in a big festival, like a flower festival. So on the day of the Sanji festival, the gopis went early in the morning to the best place to get flowers, which was Kusum Sarovar. And Krishna knew. So what Krishna did was he laid in bed, moaning. Oh, so Mother Jasoda came to wake him, and he was moaning. So she said, you stay here, you just take rest today. Balaram will take care of the cows with the cowherd boys, don't worry. When they left, Krishna immediately moved the covers and got into a little uniform, dressed like a gardener, and went straight away to Kusum Sarovar to have pastimes with the gopis. And when he reached there, Radharani had her basket and she was collecting flowers. And when her sari got caught in one of the thorn bushes, she called for help. And immediately the gardener, Banat Mali, came dressed with a mustache. You'll see the mustache in a minute. And looking like a gardener, and freed her. And soon as she was freed, she Krishna disappeared. And she was stunned. She felt attraction for the gardener like she feels for Krishna. So because she had called for help, her gopi friends came a little bit late, and they saw Radharani in this state, asked what happened. And she said, here's what happened, and I can't remove from my mind this gardener. So charming. And another painting, Krishna's pulling on Radharani's sari to free her. In the background you see the Kusum Sarovar architecture. Of course it didn't exist at that time, but that's what the painting is meant to show. So when the gopis came, they realized this wasn't a gardener, this wasn't Vanamali, this is Ban Bihari, Krishna, the enjoyer of pastimes in Vrindavan, in the Vrindavan forest. So Krishna came and saw them gathering all the flowers and took a scolding attitude. Said, look at this, you're stealing all these flowers. I'm the gardener of the king, and you have no right to steal the king's flowers. And they said, it's the Sanji festival. We're here just to gather flowers for the festival. And he took his stick and hit the bottom of their flower baskets, and the flowers went flying in all directions. And they became very angry, and Radharani grabbed him. But when she grabbed him, she found Krishna's flute stuck in the back of his outfit. And that's when they concluded, you're not Ban Bihari, you're Ban Bihari. So, Ban Mali. You're not Ban Mali, you're Ban Bihari. There we go. So they scolded him. And what's going to happen? Well, I'll wash the flowers, but it's very far away to get to the Jamuna. So he took his flute and made a motion in the ground with his flute, and a whole lake came from the ground. That's how the Sarovar manifested initially, according to this nice pastime. And he washed the flowers. They said, well, you've offended Radharani. So he said, what should I do if you feel I've offended her? You must honor her. So there's the mustached Vanamali decorating Radharani's hair. This is in the ceiling of the memorial, one of the places where Krishna's pastimes are depicted. And the whole pastime goes on, not only decorating her hair, many nice paintings indicating this wonderful pastime. Radharani's looking not just at herself, but she's looking at Krishna in the mirror, because that's her loving attraction. And after fixing her hair, he is supplying her with different ornaments to decorate her. This is a celebrated pastime, as you can see. On her wrist, making bangles, and the gopis assisting, a whole set of ornaments and decorations and rings and so many nice things. So it's like deity dressing. Krishna's dressing Radharani, pampering her feet, decorating her in various ways. So this Sanji festival pastime took place here at Kusum Sarovar. Now, here's an aerial view. You can see the numbered images on the right. That's where the Kusum Sarovar is, and behind it, number 2, is where the structures are, the architectural structures. Next, we're going to visit the Uddhava temple, which is where number 3 is. And this is what it looks like from the outside, quite simple. And this is what it looks like from the inside. In the center the deity is Uddhava. We'll get a close-up of the images. The person in charge is named Uddhava Das. Here's a little bit closer image. And a further picture, a little bit further away, showing the altar. And the close-up here is the close-up of Uddhava with Radha and Krishna in front. And over here, over here is Vajranabh, Krishna's great-grandson. And the next image is two of the queens who came with Uddhava. So that we'll hear, when we get to Uddhava Kund, some more details. But you probably know this from Bhagavatam, that after Krishna departed from Dwarka, the queens are remaining. And Arjuna brought the queens to Hastinapur for protection. And the queens were very much attracted to find Krishna's pastimes. So with the assistance of Vajranabh, Krishna's great-grandson, who by this time was the king of Mathura, with the assistance of Uddhava, Vajranabh, brought the queens to Vrindavan. But they felt that the best person to show them Vrindavan was the one they had heard so much about, was Uddhava. And he said, let us go to the place where Uddhava was performing his austerities, and then maybe he'll show us and narrate to us the pastimes of Krishna. So there's Vajranabha, and holding in his hand, we can see the image of the deity, he's holding this message from the gopis. You can see his hands extended, message from the gopis to the gopis in Vrindavan. So this is the temple commemorating his place. Here's what it looks like a little bit from a distance. Of course, as time goes by, the structure changes a little bit, and even the deity forms change a little bit. There you see Uddhava with a mustache. There's the two queens on his right, our left. And there was a Govardhan Shila to Uddhava's side, but he got replaced. The Shila got replaced with Vajranabh. So things change over time. Here it is with the message from Krishna in his hand. So it's a very nice place, the Uddhava temple. And taking a look now where the Uddhava temple is, that's number 3. We have 2 more places to visit. That's the Van Bihari temple. Remember, Vanamali is Van Bihari. So that deity of Van Bihari is now an ISKCON temple. That's number 4, down by the road at the bottom towards the center. And we're also going to go over to the left and visit Ratnakund, number 5, as you see on the map there. So here's the front of the Van Bihari temple. And here's the altar of the Van Bihari temple. If you look at the bottom, you'll see that same picture that's in the Kusum Sarovar structures. Here, the main deity, of course, is Govardhan. And down below is this same painting, a reproduction of what's in the ceiling of Kusum Sarovar. And that's Krishna decorating Radharani's hair. And to the right of our photo, this is Krishna lying on a banyan leaf at the time of devastation. That's the deity that's on the altar. So now we're going to go inside. No, actually, we're going to go across the street. Look at the top upper left. You see a cluster of trees and then a kund. That's called Narada Kund. We're going to go there. It's a little run down. This is long ago. Since then it's been renovated somewhat, and a quite large lake. And during the different times of the year, there's algae and things on the surface of the water. And on the altar is a photograph of Narada sitting with his veena, and below Narada sitting with his veena is Narada Ji, or Narada Gopi, because Narada wanted to experience the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis, but he was told you can't do that without having the form of a gopi. And so an arrangement was made that he took a dip in the Kusum Sarovar lake, and when he came out, he was in a gopi body. So this is Naradi, the deity at Narakund. And this way he could observe and participate in Krishna's pastimes with the gopis. Very special place. And now we're going to go to Ratnakund. That's on the upper left in our image, aerial image, Google image. In this illustration, it's in that orange section in the center. You see the little box of blue, that's Ratnakund. There's some other places we're also going to visit. Ratna Singhasan, we'll hear some pastimes connected with this. And a place where there's a stone that has the image of Krishna's footprint and calf footprint. We'll see all of that. And when we physically go to Govardhan, we'll see all these places in person. This is what the road looks like. Not a tarred road, it's just a little mud road. Or when it rains, it becomes muddy like this. And when we get closer, you'll see that raised circular platform. That's where rasa dance was performed by Radha and Krishna and gopis. And there's different understandings of this pastime. If you look carefully in the background, behind that raised platform, you'll see a blue cow, or they call it Nilagai. There's another one hiding behind a tree. They're in this area. Sometimes, if you're fortunate, you'll see some. There's two of them looking back at us. They just stand still. They're very afraid of people. But if you stand still, they'll let you look at them, and they'll look at you, and kind of like deer. They move like deer, but they're cows. And what's in the front of us, that's this platform marking the place where rasa dance was performed. So one of the many places in all of Vrindavan is this. The rasa dance are called Rasastali. You see some Govardhan Shilas up above. Sometimes they have that. Sometimes they have this little image of Radha and Krishna sitting on a throne. And the Ratna Simhasan, a jeweled throne, is a celebrated place. It's nearby, inside a building, and often it's locked up. But sometimes the pujari is there and let you see place that marks where Radha was seated when Shankachuta came. Now there's a version in the Bhagavatam, and there's a version in Rupa Goswami's writings. We'll share both of them. In both cases, there's this understanding. Kamsa had sent Keshi, this is now from Lalita Madhava, but it applies also to Bhagavatam. Kamsa had sent Keshi and Aristasura to check out the situation. This is before they were actually the battle. He just to do some reconnaissance. And when they returned, Keshi was glorifying Srimati Radharani and her beauty. And then Aristasura made the suggestion that Kamsa kidnapped Radharani. So Shankachuta was given that mission to go to Vrindavan, find Radharani, and bring her to Kamsa so he could enjoy with Radharani. That was kind of like a Ravana mentality. So Shankachuta came, what the Bhagavatam describes as he came on the occasion of Holi. And Balaram was with Krishna, and young girls were with them. And as is done customarily for young boys, young girls, they have some pastime where they're singing songs and performing dance, enjoying the holy festival. And Shankachuta came along, paying no attention to Krishna and Balaram, paying all attention to the gopis, and without touching them, he just hustled them away, shooed them away to go to Mathura to be with Kamsa. And as he was herding them away like cows, they started calling out to Krishna, help. And Krishna turned to Balaram saying, I'll fix him. And alone Krishna went, and Shankachuta, being very fearful of Krishna, he ran and left the gopis behind. Krishna caught up with him with one punch to his head. He killed Shankachuta. Shankachuta, as you see from the painting, he has a jewel on his turban. That's how he got the name Shankachuta, a conch-shaped jewel. So Krishna took the jewel, and he didn't want the gopis to be jealous of one another, so he gave the jewel to Balaram. That's what it says in the Bhagavatam. Then there's a very elaborate and very interesting pastime that's somewhat different, described in Rupa Goswami's Lalita Madhava. In this same area, that's what you saw the aerial image of. This is Ratna Kund, or the kund in which there's jewels. And in Lalita Madhava, it's a long section, nearly 40 verses, where it describes the following pastime. And the pastime begins with a Surya Puja being performed under the direction of Jatila. Radharani was a worshipper of the sun god. So at Surya temple, there was a puja going on, and guess who the pujaris were? Krishna and Madhumangal. Krishna and Madhumangal. So after the ceremony was done, she was ready to give dakshin to the pujaris, and Madhumangal said, I want sweets. Let's go. We'll go to your house. So Krishna was there with Radharani and some of the gopi friends. And so they went straight away to Ratna Kund and seated Radharani on the jeweled throne, Ratna Singhasan. And when they were enjoying pastimes together like this, Radharani's maternal grandmother, who was Radharani's mother? Kirtida, right? Kirtida? Kirtida was Radharani's mother, and Mukara was her mother. So Mukara was an old lady by this time, and she was almost blind. And when she came, she said really heavy things. She saw Krishna with Radha, or Radha with Krishna, and she started scolding her granddaughter, saying, what are you doing? Are you abandoning your Kadamba tree husband, Abhimanyu, in favor of this castor tree nobody, debauchee, Krishna? What are you doing? And Lalita, being very clever, this is Lalita Madhava, Lalita said, he's harassing us. He's treating us very badly. We don't know what to do. So Mukara picked up a stick, and she went chasing Krishna to whack him. And Krishna saw Mukara coming, so he ran away and hid behind a tree. He knew she was half blind, almost blind. And so she went looking, I'll catch you, you're a rascal, you're finished now. And when she went looking for Krishna, instead of finding Krishna, she found Shankachuta. Because at this time, Shankachuta was there to kidnap Radha and take her to Kamsa in Mathura. So she saw Shankachuta and thought it was Krishna because she wasn't seeing very well. She started saying really harsh things, really bad things. So Krishna's hiding and Krishna's wondering what she's seeing. She doesn't see me. She's heading in the wrong direction. Has she really gone mad? What's happening? But as she got closer, she saw Shankachuta. Let's see if we can find this text. There's a nice text. It's supposed to have been... Oh, it wasn't saved. Okay. She said, oh, Purnamasi was right. Purnamasi told us this Krishna, he's able to assume different forms like Nrsimha and Varaha, and now he's assuming this form of a fierce demon. Oh, Lord Shiva, please help. And she started screaming and crying, and Krishna heard her screaming and crying, decided to be a hero. So he would protect her, protect Radharani. Please protect Radharani from this terrible demon. And the gopi said, do you really think this demon is Krishna, that Krishna can assume this demon form? Krishna appeared and said, don't worry, Mukara, I'll rescue your granddaughter. And according to Lalita Madhava, Shankachuta had a hideous form with fearsome fangs curling from his mouth. And Krishna grabbed him, one punch to his head. Shankachuta was finished. And Mukara was so grateful. Oh, you've saved Radharani. And that's the pastime. So then they went back to the Ratna Singhasan and enjoyed pastimes as Mukara went back to her home. So the pastimes of Krishna are variegated and very funny and very sweet and very joyful. But the essence is Krishna enjoying pastimes with his dear devotees, and even those who seem to be taking an opposition position, it's just to enhance the sweetness and humor of Krishna's pastimes. So these took place at Ratnakund. Nice place. It's been renovated from what it used to look like years ago. Much better shape. This is the place nearby where there's a Shila, Govardhan Shila. As you can see, the circular mark that's said by the local people, that's a calf. When Krishna and the cowherd boys would come by this area herding their calves. And the footprint, which is towards us, is Krishna's footprint. At least so they say. That looks much more like a footprint in this photograph. So this is one of the places that the cowherd boys would come on a regular basis and perform pastimes together. And one more place we're going to visit in this area, it's called Gwal Pukar. There's a name. It's down to the left of where we were. And Gwal is the local language. It's like a kind of a corruption of Go Wala, the cowherd boys. And this is what it looked like long ago, not in good condition at all. And then the Bhaktivedanta Memorial Trust came along. That's what that little marker is. They invested some money and made it much nicer. It's a place where the cowherd boys would come and to cool off, would take bath in Gwalpukor. Nice place. And now we're going to move along from this Sham Kutir and so forth, heading to in a southerly direction along the eastern side of Govardhan Hill, heading for Manasi Ganga. We're not going to make it there, but we're going to see the beginnings of Govardhan appearing. Here's what Chaitanya Charitamrita says. When Lord Chaitanya saw Govardhan Hill immediately offered obeisances, falling down on the ground like a rod. He embraced one piece of rock from Govardhan hill and became mad. Here's the BBT painting showing that, embracing the hill or rock from the hill of Govardhan in great ecstasy, madness of ecstasy. So the local devotees, they also worship just the protruding rocks because they're shilas, just like Shalagram shilas. They're installed forms of Krishna already. So you see, they've offered flowers and milk and kumkum and various prayers in worship of Govardhan Hill. And so that's it for this morning's class. Oh, devotees in Phoenix, Arizona and Portland, Oregon, where the last slide is this one. The next place that we're going to go to when we begin this evening is Manasi Ganga, and all the places that you see pictured around Manasi Ganga. That's going to be our first stop. Very special place, Manasi Ganga. So we've only covered about a quarter of the whole of Govardhan, but some very nice, very sweet places, and we look forward to joining you this evening. Giri Govardhan ki jai. So I don't know if I've gone way over our time constraint, probably. So let's see if there's some discussion from our remote devotees, the Phoenix or Portland devotees. If there's somebody else from our local communities, you're going to have to wait because they take priority in our schedule. Has anyone sent in some questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, everyone in Zoom, it's muted, so please, if you have any questions, raise your hand to avoid everybody talking at the same time. Please raise your hands and accordingly we'll enable your mics.
Okay, sounds good.
Narottam Vilas Prabhu, go ahead.
I can't hear you. A little louder?
Krishna Maharaj, please accept the humble obeisances. Maharaj, glorious past time, and thank you so much for taking us on this virtual journey.
You got to speak a little louder because we'll turn up the volume here, but I can't hear you yet. Try again.
Sure. Can you hear me now, Maharaj?
A little better. Speak a little louder, and they're going to play.
Sure.
They're going to play with the volume. Go ahead.
Yeah. Please accept the humble obeisances, Maharaj. Thank you so much for taking us on this virtual journey. We're so grateful to you. Maharaj, I was just wondering, what should one's mood be while they're performing the Govardhan Parikrama? Can you speak something?
Prayer, submission, seeking mercy, because this is a form of the Lord. It's a very special form of the Lord. And when you can directly approach a form of the Lord, humble, submissive, prayerful, seeking some of the mystery of Krishna to be revealed to you. When you're doing it virtually or when you're doing it physically, same mood. Prayerful, humble, submission, wishing to have the mystery of the Dham revealed to you.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, we have one of our younger devotees, Shubhangam. Please enable your video. You're on mute, Shubhangam.
Speak up. Can't hear you so well.
Yeah, want to ask a question about Govardhan Hill actually.
About which?
So when Govardhan asked for the benediction of having Krishna put his feet on his head for the so then so since Krishna played on Govardhan Hill, can we step on Govardhan Hill, or if we step on Govardhan Hill, would Krishna's foot be stepped on?
We don't walk on Govardhan Hill because Lord Chaitanya would not walk on Govardhan Hill because he said Govardhan Hill is Krishna. And we don't put our foot on Krishna. We follow Lord Chaitanya. So there are some Brijbasis and even some pilgrims. We'll see later. Some pilgrims going on Govardhan Hill. We don't, because we accept Govardhan Hill as Krishna himself, or even Krishna's devotee. We don't put our feet on a devotee's head, do we? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. There you go. Nice question. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from Phoenix or Portland? No questions at our end, Maharaj.
Okay.
Not yet. Maybe this afternoon, this evening.
Okay. Okay. We have some of our own attendees. Yes? So is it all right with all of you? Some of our local attendees will raise some questions. Go ahead.
Shri Radhika Mataji is asking, is there any connection between the meter for this song being the intoxicated peacock and the fact that Govardhan is in the shape of a peacock?
Then maybe there is some connection between the meter and the shape of Govardhan. Maybe. My sense is it's just Rupa Goswami's poetry. And the meter matches the mood of the message. As the peacock, I mean, the peacock strut. But what's an intoxicated peacock strutting going to look like? And the meter is like that kind of a swagger and very sweet. I take it as a poetic connection, not necessarily the other.
It's a question from Radhika, Kirti Prabhu's daughter, 9-year-old. Hare Krishna Maharaj, should we worship Govardhan as Krishna or as a devotee of Krishna?
We should worship Govardhan as a devotee of Krishna, but if one wants to worship Govardhan as Krishna, that's okay too. Commonly, Gaudiya Vaishnavas worship Govardhan as the devotee. But simultaneously, he's both. We certainly know that. We're going to come across that again and again. But especially, our acharyas appreciated Govardhan as devotee. Both. We have a question from in our room here. We're in somebody's home right now. And the hostess wants to speak.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances, Sarguru Srila Prabhupada. I thought your lecture was very beautiful, although I couldn't be really present here for, at least the 1/4 or 2/4 half of the time. But I just thought, I really wanted to go to Vrindavan for this Kartik month. And when have you provided the details of the Govardhan Parikrama, I just thought it was very, very beautiful. So you also mentioned that Govardhan is even, I guess, a higher devotee or better devotee than gopis or
The greatest. The gopis consider like that.
Oh, okay. How come it was that way?
Because that's how they see.
Because
They like to serve Krishna, and they see that Govardhan serves Krishna the best.
Okay.
That's their mood of love.
So Govardhan's mood is also in the Madhurya Ras?
Interesting question. Govardhan, I don't know the rasa of Govardhan.
Okay.
Govardhan serves Krishna unlimitedly. That much we know.
Right.
Not so conjugal sweetness, yes. Conjugal. How's there conjugal love between Govardhan and Krishna? But the gopis consider Haridas Varya. That much we know.
Okay. I also have another question. You said Radharani worshipped Lord Surya Dev, right? Lord Surya.
Yes.
Or sun. So how come, did she know, she knew that this, Krishna was there and he's the supreme.
Oh, no.
person.
She didn't see Krishna as the supreme. Krishna is her beloved.
Okay, so she was still worshipping sun god.
Well, but how was Radharani worshipping the sun god? It's not like modern people who worship the sun god, or even ancient people who worship the sun god.
Okay.
Her worship of the sun god is different
Okay.
than ordinary people worshiping the sun god. Like, ordinary people, they would take Satrajit. He worshipped the sun god, but he wanted stuff. And he got stuff. And it caused him a problem. Radharani didn't want stuff. She wanted Krishna. So she worshipping Surya Dev for that purpose.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, we just have one more question from our
Okay.
yatra.
Okay.
Thank you. Ram Prabhu, please go ahead. You're on mute. Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you for the wonderful virtual tour, Maharaj. It was really enlightening, the kind of research you might have put into the Google Maps, the shape of peacock. I really appreciate that curious interest from you to educate all of us. Now, while you're explaining, the pastimes of, Vanamali and, teasing Radharani and gopis, it's sort of all those pastimes reminds us of how the life might be on Golok Vrindavan. I mean, last night in the Bhakti Vriksha, Purushottam Das Prabhu was saying the gopis during Rasa Leela, they were like spiritual bodies, and they left behind the material bodies for their husbands at home. But they realized truly the spiritual connection with Lord Krishna. And even gopis, I mean, like we see here in Ramayana, they had benediction from Lord Rama that, during Krishna avatar, they would get the closeness of, the lordship. I have no question, Maharaj. I'm just trying to put everything together as to, the wonderful pastime of Krishna here is like showing us how the life would be in Golok Vrindavan. I'm just reflecting on this.
Krishna is all attractive. And Krishna is expert at fulfilling the desires of everyone, or reciprocating with the desires of everyone, and especially his devotees. And amongst his devotees, there's the very, very, very special Brijvasi devotees, and so forth. The special amongst the Brijvasi devotees are the gopis, and especially amongst... So the exchanges are very attractive and unconventional. Anything that exists in this realm is paltry and pale in comparison. So hearing these attractive pastimes attract us to the pastimes, attract us to Krishna. that there's a potency within these pastimes. In Rupa Goswami's language, it's called udipan, or stimulation of ecstatic love. So just by hearing pastimes of Krishna, the dormant ecstatic love for Krishna is touched or stirred or awakened, stimulated by that sound of the message of Krishna's pastimes, or all these images of seeing Govardhan Hill. It's the form of Krishna. As we saw in the last slides, people worshiping. We're going to see more people worshiping. So he makes himself available in a form that's worshipable by anybody. And even without knowing it, he's worshipable by anybody and everybody. And as one feels that presence, connects with the presence of Krishna through sound and through the sight of his form as Govardhan, that ecstatic love is also stimulated. So the love of the gopis, most exalted, but it's not all the gopis left behind a material form. Some of the gopis left in their, some of the gopis were restrained. Some of the gopis couldn't even go. Some of the gopis were checked and they left their material bodies. Some of the gopis went in their bodies. There's a whole range of exchange with different stages of devotion even amongst the gopis. But their attraction for Krishna was unparalleled, unstoppable. So those that were restrained, the acharyas describe, that was further purification necessary for them to become fit to enter into the rasa lila pastimes of Krishna. So each of us, different circumstances of life. If we take it in the right way, it's simply an opportunity for us to be drawn closer to Krishna. If we don't take it the right way, then we can struggle. But Lord Chaitanya wants to take us to Krishna's abode. So does the Bhagavatam. And so does Govardhan. Please fulfill all desires. That's the desire. Govardhan has that capacity. That's my meditation when doing all this, by the way.
Haribol, thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, we have something local, and then I think we'll close.
Snehavalli Mataji asks, Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, Chartaka Parvat in Puri is similar to Govardhan in Vrindavan. I'm curious to know why Lord Chaitanya climbed on that Parvat but not Govardhan.
Lord Chaitanya, I hope you understood the question. Some of you may be newer. I'll just repeat the frame of the question. In Jagannath Puri, there was a sand dune that Lord Chaitanya saw when moving about. And when he saw the sand dune, he saw Govardhan. And seeing Govardhan, he saw Krishna on the side of Govardhan. And he went running with outstretched arms, like the wind, and then fainted. No, Lord Chaitanya didn't walk on Chatak Parvat, nor did he walk on Govardhan. Before he reached Chatak Parvat, he fainted in ecstasy.
This question is from Vachaspati. In one version of Govardhana's origination on earth, we heard that Hanuman granted a boon that Govardhan will be of service in Krishna's pastimes.
Yes.
This boon did become reality. However, in another version of the story, Pulasya Muni cursed Govardhan. This is also true as Govardhan shrinks in size every day. What is the difference between a curse or a blessing from a pure devotee like Hanuman and mystical person like Pulasya Muni? Is there a greater weightage for a devotee's boon?
Is there a greater what?
Greater weightage?
Greater what? Weight? Well, anything from a devotee is good. Anything from an exalted devotee like Hanuman is good. And he understood Govardhan's wish, and he was speaking to fulfill Govardhan's wish. You wish to be in the Lord's service, so be it. You'll be in the Lord's service. And from Palashya, it wasn't like, I want to see your devotion for the personality of Godhead increase. He was just like, you've made me unhappy, and so I'm going to curse you. So there's quite a difference between a devotee's utterances and a mystical person's utterances. In either case, he's in Vrindavan and he's happy. Okay, I think we're finished for this midday. Thank you very much. Prabhupada ki jai. See you this evening. Giri Govardhan ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj, and thank you all. See you later.